Now, alongside with the armaments industry, we then have the development of the common foreign and security policy to allow the European Union to act outside its borders with a military force to protect the interests of the European Union itself. I think it is quite clear, if you read the section, and it is an easily readable section actually, which people should download and read. It speaks of combat forces in crisis management, including peacemaking and post-conflict stabilisation. The language is a little bit sanitized, as militarized language usually is. But in reality, the possibility of occupying countries where that is in the interest of the unions, with the EU battle groups which have already been prepared, and then with the armaments which are provided for in this treaty itself. And there is also a particularly sinister new aspect to the militarization of the European Union, which is this. The treaty says those member states whose military capabilities fulfill higher criteria and which have made more binding commitments to one another with a view to the most demanding missions shall establish permanent structures of cooperation within the Union framework. In other words, the powerful military states within the European Union are really mandated to set up a military alliance internal to the European Union itself, and then it goes on to say that such an enhanced group of the more powerful military more powerful military estates can be given tasks by the European leaders to carry out missions, military missions, outside the borders of the European Union. And the rules make clear that when those missions are going on, they will be in the name of the EU as a whole, but will be controlled only by the states which are participating within them. Now, I say that that is an extremely sinister and new development. And I say that it is not in any sense historical or overreacting to pose the possibility down the line of the European Union with such powerful armaments industry and with a powerful growing EU military force, that it would think of intervening abroad to protect the economic interests and its markets and seeking raw materials, etc., in the same way as the United States has done for many decades now, and most shamefully and criminally most recently in Iraq, where the invasion of 2003, as we know, was really to secure the oil supplies for the future of American and of world capitalism. It is not in any sense historical or overreacting to say that that is an acute danger, and that, in my view, is something that we should, at this stage, move against and cut across. Now, the common foreign and security policy then, the external policy of the Union, is also changed to facilitate this situation. And briefly, what it says is that every state shall obey the common foreign and security policy and shall support it. I'll read it out directly. The member states shall support the Union's external and security policy actively and unreservedly in a spirit of loyalty and mutual solidarity, and shall comply with the Union's action in this area. And it then goes on further to demand that our embassy and embassies of all member states abroad do likewise. The diplomatic missions of the member states and the Union delegation in third countries and at international organisations, like the United Nations, for example, shall coordinate and shall contribute to formulating and implementing the common approach. This crushes the right of any member state to have an independent foreign policy where it disagrees with the majority view of the European Union. That is the most serious change that is also provided for in this Lisbon, Treaty. Now, the whole structures, therefore, are being geared up to make of the European Union a powerful unit, economically and militarily, that can, as it sees fit to protect its interests, push its weight around the world. And of course, that is all predicated with flowery language about human rights, about democracy, and so on. We must not be fooled by that. We must look to essential interests. Read the American Constitution. Read the declarations of the United States, who are allegedly on the world stage also to protect human rights, the rights of democracy, and the values of a free people, which of course hasn't stopped it from supporting virtually every dirty dictatorship in Latin America and elsewhere over the last 30 years, and as we know now, in Iraq itself. Now, moving on quickly, friends, to the second key objection of the Socialist Party to this treaty. Moving on to the issue of economic policy, and particularly to the common commercial policy, which again, people should really try to read for themselves. Parts of it are not that difficult. And there is a clear change in this that opens up our public services of health, education and social services and audiovisual and cultural services to being opened up in a mandatory fashion to multinational corporations being able to come in, participate, invest and take profit out of them. And that is done in the following way. Under Article 188C, the EU Commission is mandated, will be mandated by the European leaders to go into talks with the World Trade Organization and other international bodies with a view to working out trade agreements, such as is going on at the present time with the farmers, with the agricultural industry, between the European Union and the WTO. The European Commission negotiators would therefore be mandated to discuss opening up the services of health and education, for example, as tradable commodities in a capitalist market, and making deals with other countries as to how they could be forcibly opened up to being opened up to these multinationals. And the change that Lisbon makes is this. Whereas now each single member state has a veto on any such proposal, Lisbon gets rid of that veto and moves any proposals for such changes in the investment by private corporations in public services to qualified majority voting only.